Good evening, everyone. You're listening to Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this is your Red Pill News. I'd like to thank everyone for joining me this fine Monday evening. First of all, we had some expected, however, still very good news that came out of the DOJ today. We were told on many occasions, but most recently in Post 3315 on April 18th, Rod Rosenstein's departure next. This was immediately after the end of the Mueller blockade. Well, today it has been made official. Rod Rosenstein has officially resigned, or he's turned in his letter of resignation, which will become effective on May 11th. Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein announced today, Monday, in a letter to President Trump that he will be resigning his position on May 11th. In 2 weeks, apparently, he will be gone, and this is all after destroying many people's lives by authorizing Mueller to rove around unchecked as a special counsel to investigate Trump and his associates for anything under the sun that they could possibly use against him and the coup. Now, his departure has been expected for Anons for a good long time, but since January, the rest of the public has known, when Bill Barr asked him to stay on just a little bit longer so they could help finalize that Mueller report and then have him on stage with him when he announced everything about it, and we got to see how Rod Rosenstein looked. He looked like an automaton. He said today, as I submit my resignation effective on May 11th, I am grateful to you for the opportunity to serve, for the courtesy and humor you often display in our personal conversations, and for the goals you set in your inaugural address. Patriotism, unity, safety, education, and prosperity, because a nation exists to serve its citizens. Those are all very true statements, Rod Rosenstein, and I'm glad that you're finally talking in a nice way about our president. After you've overseen such an incredible takedown attempt by him. Now, as I said earlier, we've known for quite some time that Rod Rosenstein would be leaving. Of course, next, with C coming before D, we've got the Comey report, and then we've got the D class coming up right after that. So it looks to me like all of the dominoes are falling one right after another. Now, in 2017, we know Rosenstein spoke with DOJ and FBI officials about wearing a wire and secretly recording President Trump to build a case that Trump is unfit to hold office. Personally, I think that may have been done in an attempt to entrap the people that he was asking. I think that Rod Rosenstein knew what was going on this whole time. I don't think he's a good guy, but I think that he was in on the gag the whole time. Now, from the looks of things, apparently Rosenstein began plotting Trump's removal shortly after FBI Director Comey was fired. We all remember that Rosenstein gave the okay to President Trump to fire Director Comey at that time. And we also know from the information that's come out since then that Rosenstein also sought to recruit cabinet members to invoke the 25th Amendment. Now, this all could have been done in a ruse so that Rosenstein could report back to the president and tell him exactly who he could and could not trust. I believe that many of those people have since left the cabinet, so that's just something that points to it in my opinion. Now, of course, Rosenstein had to deny publicly that he ever plotted to wear that wire, but ex-FBI lawyer James Baker also confirmed that to Congress in a hearing that Rosenstein was plotting a coup. Now, we also know that Rosenstein signed that June 2017 FISA renewal application to spy on Carter Page, and 20 pages of that is still redacted, so hopefully someday we are going to get to see what that says. And then, or shortly before that, he had appointed Mueller as the special counsel to investigate Trump-Russia collusion. President Trump did, of course, just confirm on Hannity that he is going to be unredacting those 20 pages within the Carter Page FISA, and not only that, but many other documents. Now, this is something we have been hoping for and expecting for quite some time. And of course, we know that President Trump could not have done this previously because the Democrats and their evil partners in this coup would have worked as hard as they could to obstruct the president and tried to, just make sure that the public did not get the full scope of the truth. Well, now that it's come out that the president is completely exonerated, even though he never committed a crime, he has been exonerated of this claim. We now know exactly what to expect because we have been given a roadmap. So you guys buckle in, hold on tight, it's happening. All right, and next, finally, we've got ICE doing some heavy lifting. They've announced a plan to stop the fake families and child smuggling at the border, something that has been just ridiculously out of control. Basically, they are shifting their tactics. They are going to be using all their resources to deal with this influx of fake families. They're being formed to cross our border to avoid detention because we've got that catch and release thing. President Trump stopped the process of holding on to families. And not only that, but we've got so many that have come through, they can't even hold on to them. So ICE is working with CBP to stop individuals, networks, and organizations facilitating child smuggling and document fraud to illegally enter the U.S. Now, we know that it's probably not just the fraud to get these people in, but there's probably some other monetary reward for these people to bring these children into the United States. We've heard reports that children are being recycled. They are brought in, they are sent back. They are brought in with different people, these poor kids, but I'm sure there are a fairly large amount of these children that end up forced to stay in the United States against their will and probably with some very, very bad people. The agency stated it's moving experts to the border to investigate the child smuggling, and it's going to be using science data to dismantle the child trafficking rings employed by human smugglers working in Central America and Mexico. And this announcement came just the same day as a media appearance by the agency's acting director. I think that President Trump made the right decision in this case, for sure. What we're doing is surging resources from ICE's Homeland Security investigations to the border. We're sending human trafficking experts, document fraud experts, forensic interviewers, victim assistance specialists, because our first and primary goal is the safety and security of these children, as it should be. Family units do make up a large portion of the illegal aliens apprehended at the southern border, and out of all those apprehended at the southern border, 62% of them were an unaccompanied minor or claimed to be part of a family unit. And in a 6-month time period, around 2,700 migrants were determined to be lying about their family unit claims. Now, the number of children traveling with adults who are lying about their relationships has raised concerns among immigration enforcement because these kids are being victimized. We know that they're being trafficked, we know they're being recycled, and we know that they're being sent back across the border multiple times. Or sometimes they're even being rented to these cartels and these organizations so that they can be used again and again with a non-relative adult, so that adult can be released because they know that we can't hold them. These policies must be updated in order to deal with this, and that's exactly what ICE is doing. Now, DHS has already begun changing policy to deal with the huge wave of fake children arriving at the border, with officials now fingerprinting minors that are 14 and younger. Previously, they used to only occasionally take photos and collect some information on the children. These changes, they believe, will help them to better identify children being used by human smugglers. It's just incredible to think that they were not doing this before, because this allowed them to just use these kids over and over and over again. And, you see so many people there, you cannot imagine how difficult it would be for these people working at the border to recognize these people. We've had over 100,000 people come in so far this year alone, and it is most certainly not only an emergency, but an epidemic of epic proportions. President Trump has been on the ball with this since the moment he hit the scene. This is probably one of the largest and most catastrophic things facing America today. We must deal with this in as quick a time as possible, and it is such a good reassurance to see this new acting director come in and immediately taking action. Say what you want about Kirstjen Nielsen, but this is something she could have done a long time ago. And wow, guys, believe all woman. This is something that someone warned me about on Twitter today. They said, don't make this part of the news cycle yet. Well, you know what? The reason I want to make this a part of the news cycle is because the Democrats jump on every single opportunity to make claims against people outside of their own party, and mysteriously they tend to dismiss it anytime it's within their own party. Now, Pete Buttigieg has been upheld as like the new Beto, basically. He's supplanted Beto, taken his place. People don't even think about Beto anymore. Nobody's going to his rallies. I think his fundraising has probably dropped way off because the idea of someone with Pete Buttigieg's demographics, shall we say. I'm not even going to get into the specifics of it. I'll let you guys do your own research on that. But somebody like Pete Buttigieg, who they think that is going to be, basically a basin for all of their social justice ideals, and someone who is not just, a Joe Biden, shall we say. They've really held him up and vaulted him as a savior of their cause. Well, Pete Buttigieg has now been accused of this stuff right here. I'm not going to say it out loud because YouTube has been especially difficult recently. But there's an article, and it's written by a young man who has made some claims against Pete Buttigieg, and they're shocking. And he's going to be writing a series about it, it looks like. Trying not to get this jumping jack lady on there. He's going to be writing a series about it. Here is the young man right here. He's 21. He apparently met Pete Buttigieg at some type of a function. Pete Buttigieg told him he was a very important politician, and he used that to then get this young man in a compromising position. This young man has stated that, he's got nothing to gain from this. So I really don't see why we shouldn't believe him, or at least take his claims seriously. Now, the Gateway Pundit has already reached out to Hunter. Hopefully there will be more information forthcoming. I tend to think that he's going to be putting out his article himself on Medium before anything else is said. He did have a tweet that he posted after that he simply said revenge, and it included a photograph of Princess Diana. I don't know if this is some type of lover spat or if it was in reality an assault, but we'll have to wait and see. In the meantime, I think there's nothing wrong with taking a look at it and taking note. All right, now next, Joe Biden held his first rally very recently, and I just want you guys to take a look. He only had just over 2.8 thousand people watching on Periscope. Now compare that to a similar type of rally that maybe our president would handle and hold. So I also want you to take note at the enthusiasm of the people who are attending. This woman is falling asleep. This man is just looking with his head down. These individuals, pretty much everyone who you can see their face, looks like they were potentially, just bussed in to be warm bodies in the auditorium. But doesn't look like anybody's having a good time. Doesn't look like anyone is really excited about Joe Biden running for office. And I tend to think that this is how his campaign is going to go. I don't think that Joe Biden has the personal enthusiasm or any of the type of enthusiasm of his base that President Trump has. And to say, when you think of Joe Biden having a base, who is Joe Biden's base? Who is he fighting for? Who are the people that are going to vote for him? I think that anybody that does vote for him is going to be people who are only voting perhaps to vote against President Trump. But I think you can tell just from looking at this still shot here that no one is excited about Joe Biden running for office. And I think that he probably is not even all that excited. This is probably his last opportunity to do something like this. He's done it a couple of times in the past, and it was never very successful. So I think that Joe Biden is going to have a long uphill battle against the best president our country has ever known. Now, here, this is just after his rally ended. C-SPAN drops back and does a wide shot, and you can see he's got maybe 100 people, maybe a couple hundred people, and a good portion of them are press. This is Joe Biden working for America. I think not. I think this is Joe Biden and a room of a handful of friends, maybe some relatives, and a good portion of the press. And it really does not look like anyone is very excited. I cannot see Joe Biden going very far with this. This is HRC 2.0. Can you imagine a Trump rally with this much standing room, with this much empty space? The road to the White House, once again, is going to be long and hard for Joe Biden. Now, next we have some footage that someone on Twitter had sent over to me. This is showing in Sacramento, California, a massive movement of military equipment. You've got tanks and all kinds of various heavy armored vehicles. This person who took the video said that the train car stretched for over a mile and a half. This was taken on April 21st, and not only that, but apparently a good portion of these armored vehicles have Red Cross symbols on them. So it just goes to show that there is some major military movement happening in California as we speak. Now, is this for the border? Is this just some type of resupply mission for bases in California? Or is this the federal government moving equipment so that they can have it at the ready in the event that some type of insurrection takes place in California? We know that California is essentially enemy territory at this point. But the individual taking the photographs, taking the videos, he was driving down the road because the road has no parking. He had to get out and park and then walk so that he could come to this point and take the videos. The train was not moving at the time that he took the videos. It was just standing still. And he goes into his car and he gets back in and he takes another drive to go back through and take a look and to give us another better view of it. And you can really see how far it stretches, in each direction. You can't see the end of it. And then only here, this is just later that day when he's in his car driving to take a look, and you can see that perhaps that's the beginning of it right there, or it's at one end or the other. But you can see that it just goes on and on and on and on. That is a lot of military equipment, you guys. I'm not ex-military. My father was, but he's not around anymore, so I can't ask him if this kind of stuff is normal. So I'd like to get you guys' opinion. I'd like for you to tell me in the comments below if this is something that you would expect to see, especially with Red Cross symbols on a good portion of these vehicles. And then not only that, but he does go back later in the video the next day to take a look and to see if everything is still there, and it's already gone. It's been moved, and they've taken it to wherever it was going. So again, you guys, if you could, clue me in on any information about this, if you're in California, if you've seen something like this, if you can point to anything and give us any information as to why this might be happening, or if this is the normal business in terms of moving this much military equipment. Are they just resupplying? Are they replacing? Are they stocking up National Guard bases? I don't know. But anything you guys can tell us, I think it would be really, really interesting to hear about. But here you go. You can see it again. It just goes on and on and on and on. And he does state in the video that it was approximately 1.5 miles long. I didn't use his audio because the audio was very, very windy and difficult to hear at certain points. But here is the next day, April 22nd, when he went back to check, and everything's gone. It's all been moved. So where did it go? Any of my viewers in California that have any information, please do write about it in the comments below and tell me if you know of any of the information regarding this movement of military equipment in Sacramento, California. All right, guys, and moving on to our next story. Now, in the world of Supreme Court justices, we have some interesting digs that were done by this individual, Paul Moadib, 61, on Twitter. He has taken a hard look at some interesting photographs that have been posted about this individual, and he says that there's no way of really finding out the story because everything has been altered. It's amazing. You can see right here that this is clearly not a line that would exist in real life. Dealing with Photoshop and photo manipulation myself, I can say that with confidence. It looks to me like they took the face of someone, notably this missing individual, and they placed it over the face of another person. Either that or they took this person's face from the photo and added the body to it. Either way, it's the same deal. Here is another instance of this. Now, why would they want to do that? Well, we know that ears can be used in facial recognition to determine someone's identity. So this leads me to believe that because they are taking this person's face and adding it to this body with these different ears, is it that they have a double and they're adding it to these old photographs where the ears match up? Or is it just that they are taking everything up to the ear and then pasting it onto the face of this person who is actually at this event? These are all three different pictures, and every single photograph has the unique quality of being a face pasted onto another body. Very, very compelling evidence to think that these are not the pictures of this individual. Now here we have another one. This says that her head is disproportionate to her body. Now I've noticed this for quite some time, but I guess I always just thought maybe she had an odd head. But this head definitely looks far larger than it should on this body. So this makes me think that this is a photograph of a person sitting on a couch, and they took this picture of a head from a different picture and added it in. There are a lot of artifacts in this photo too. I know it's not a particularly high-res photo, but there's a lot of artifacts, you know, almost like they had to erase everything that was around it and try to make it look not too fake. Here we go again, also another strangely disproportionate head. Looks very, very obvious when you zoom in on it like that. Head is way too big for those shoulders. And then look at the ear again. Let's see one right here. So this says supposedly taken on April 5th, but it was actually taken in December of 2013, and the big head one has been used to hide the neck. And look, you can see here from the side profile, the way that the head is positioned is far different. She's got that normal slump that she normally has. In the other earlier photo, she was sitting up much straighter. I don't know what is real anymore, but I guess that is the point, to confuse the crap out of us so that we can give up trying to figure out. Looks to me like her skin is far smoother than it is in real life. That neck does not look as old either. Look at that. That doesn't even quite look like the same person. That doesn't either. Also, look at the angle of the neck. This real person that they're trying to show with a body double has a pronounced slump. This person seems to be sitting or standing straight up. Look at that. That's normally the angle right there. Also, the hair, noticeably darker. One looks like she has colored contact lenses, and the others, she isn't even looking at the camera. I don't know any of these are real. I doubt any of these are real. Yeah, looking away from the camera. That pic of her April 5th was done after the performance of Lisette Oropesa in December 2013. Lisette was in Belgium on April 5th. She is also 6 years older and looks completely different. So this is a picture of the woman kneeling on the ground in front of her. This is from 2012, and you can see the photo that was supposedly taken on the 5th. She's got hair very similar to that from many years ago. And we're going to actually take a look at a photograph on her current Facebook from when she was actually at that event on the 5th. And you can see that her hair is completely, radically different, and she looks to be much older than she does in this picture. So there she is, right there, Lisette Oropesa. She clearly looks like an older woman in this photograph and not the same. These two articles that were supposedly debunked were posted 2 days before Fox News aired the graphic that this missing individual had passed away on January 21st, 2019. I'm starting to think Santa Monica Observer hit the nail on the head. I definitely covered the work of Santa Monica Observer, and I took them to be very credible, especially when in comparison to other news outlets. Of course, is that infamous graphic. She canceled her appearances in January and February. Her next one is scheduled for July 26th. I'm sure this will be canceled as well because it was made in November 2018. But if not, we need to overrun that place with cameras. And July 26th, Cooperstown, New York. Any patriots willing to go and take some covert pictures? This pic being escorted by a Marine was in December 2012. Look how frail she looks, and that was 6 years ago. She's also wearing a hearing aid. And that portion of the ear looks even different from those other two. Seems the new missing individual has changed eye colors and wear contacts. The real individual has really green eyes. The new one has a blue-gray color. You can also see the circle outline of the colored contacts. Yep, those are two completely different colored eyes. And let's see what else we have. Ah, very nice. Yep, different eyes, completely different eyes. This is the new one. And this is the old one. And that's the end of the thread. So, more mystery, you guys, more mystery. When are we going to find out the truth? I know that they want to run out the clock on this so that President Trump does not have the ability to appoint Amy Coney Barrett. But I think that as time goes on, it's just inevitable. Unfortunately, they are going to have to cede this one. They will have to necessarily abdicate this particular throne. Any more tips on this missing individual? I'd love to hear about it. If you guys have anything you want to send me, of course, you can always reach me on Twitter at redpill78 or at redpill78@protonmail.com. Please, if you have a story that you want to tell me, it will really help if you can summarize it. And please, I ask that you don't just send me a bunch of documents and ask me to do the investigating. I have so many things to look over, and it would really help me if I can get your help in summarizing something so that I know if it's going to be right for the show. All right, guys, we had some interesting tweets from the president over the weekend. If you've been wondering, like I have, why Judge Andrew Napolitano took such a nasty turn against our president, well, it seems we've been given the answer. And President Trump tweeted out this weekend that thank you to brilliant and highly respected attorney Alan Dershowitz for destroying the very dumb legal argument of Judge Andrew Napolitano. Ever since Andrew came to my office to ask that I appoint him to the U.S. Supreme Court and I said no, he has been very hostile. Also asked for pardon for his friend, a good pal of low ratings, Shepard Smith. Wow. Well, you know, I have definitely been wondering what happened to Andrew Napolitano. He was, a Trump supporter, and then he really just turned on him after the election, and I could never figure out why. But he basically, very recently, this last week, he released a video regarding alleged acts of obstruction detailed in the Mueller report, calling them unlawful, defenseless, and condemnable. And of course, President Trump came out with these tweets and really put Napolitano in his place. It is really, really interesting to see this happening in real live time. Now, I'm pretty angry at Andrew Napolitano. I think that he's really shown himself to be a fair weather friend and someone who is only going to support the president if it's going to get him what he wants. But what do you guys think? Do you think that Andrew Napolitano can be redeemed, or do you think that this is the end of the road for him in terms of and going anywhere with the rest of this administration? Because we're looking at another 4 years, and the judge is definitely on the president's bad list. And finally, we have a letter from Senator Grassley and Senator Johnson sent to AG Barr on the FBI spying. This was sent on April 25th. And it's in regards to his April 10th testimony before the Senate Appropriations Committee, where he said he was looking into the genesis and conduct of intelligence activities directed at the Trump campaign during 2016. Now, as we all know, at that time, Barr did say that spying did occur and that it was his obligation to look into it and to determine whether that intelligence agencies' actions were adequately predicated. Of course, they echo their concerns for the activities and say that they're troubled about the apparent unauthorized disclosure of their surveillance efforts and other classified information during that same activity. And they have a couple of questions here. They want to ask if in the course of the oversight and the work that they reviewed about the certain text messages that show the potential attempts by the FBI to conduct surveillance on President Trump's transition team, they're asking specifically about a section where Peter Strzok and Lisa Page discussed the possibility of developing potential relationships at a November 2016 FBI briefing for the presidential transition team staff. Very, very damning things right here. Specifically, they were discussing sending the CI guy to assess an unnamed person, and they were concerned that it might be unusual for him to attend. Well, a few weeks after the election, Mr. Strzok and Mrs. Page discussed the logistics for the briefing. We're going to go in and take a closer look at the letter right here. And they say here, talking with Bill, that would be Bill Priestap. Do you want Joe? I imagine that's Joe Pienka. To go with Evanina instead of Charlie for a variety of reasons. Not sure. Would it be unusual to have this individual show up again? Maybe another agent from the team? Or he's the CI guy. Is that counterintelligence or is that classified informant? And right here is where they ask if Katie's husband is there, he can see if there are people we can develop for potential relationships. So this looks to me like Katie's husband, which would be the former chief of staff for Vice President Pence, looks to me like they already had a pre-existing relationship. And he was doing more than just spying on the president. He was actually assisting Strzok and Page in identifying others that they could continue to develop additional relationships with. So this goes far beyond just sending information about the Trump transition team. This was him actually helping to develop sources for the FBI. And that is exactly what they clue in on right here. They ask the nature of these communications and the precise purpose of any attempts to develop relationships with Trump or Pence transition team staff are not immediately clear. Were these efforts done to gain better communication between their respective parties, or were the briefings used as intelligence gathering operations? I think that that was probably both. They were looking to get in there and see who they could get additional information from. And of course, they want to know if Bill Barr has found that any of these activities appear to be improper. I think that question is self-evident. They're also very concerned about the leaks to the media during the midst of these ongoing investigations and want to know if anything's been done to figure out exactly who was leaking and what type of oversight they're going to provide to make sure it doesn't happen again. They also give Bill Barr until May 9th to answer some specific questions. They want him to describe the nature and extent of your review of FBI surveillance of the Trump campaign, the transition staff, Vice President Pence's transition staff, President Trump's staff, and Vice President Pence's staff, including any efforts to determine whether that surveillance was adequately predicated, how many intelligence briefings were provided to the Trump and Pence transition staffs prior to the inauguration day and the dates of that. They want to know how Bill Barr is going to get information from these FBI employees who are no longer with the Bureau. And they want to have him commit to providing the results to them once all of his reviews are completed. And then, of course, they want to know if he's going to find out exactly who was leaking to the media. And they are requesting prompt response to this information in accordance with their oversight responsibilities. So once again, this is from Chuck Grassley and from Ron Johnson, Senate Committee on Homeland Security, and then the Senate Finance Committee. So I believe that Bill Barr is going to go ahead and give as much information as he possibly can. It's just always, it's a matter of time, you guys. The wheels of justice turn slowly. So waiting to hear about this and waiting to hear about so much more. All right, guys, I want to thank you for joining me. As always, this has been Red Pill 78. I am the Corruption Detector, and this was your Red Pill News. Good luck, everyone, and God bless.